this podcast, you'll find interviews with high-performing, successful individuals in life sciences. On a weekly basis, we cover their proven methods, principles, strategies, and mindsets to implement new technologies that scale to meet the needs of people in our world.
Welcome to this episode of Life Science Success. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don, and I am a digital marketer in life sciences. As we go to get ready to get started here today, there are a couple things that I wanted to mention as we kick off. So first of all, I've created a free school community, so school, SKOOL, community, where I will be continually teaching a lot of the things that we talk about related to business and entrepreneurship, podcasting, digital media, all of those sorts of topics are going to be key topics inside of the school community. I will be pasting a link to that community below in this episode. Also, for anybody that's watching on YouTube or anywhere else you're watching the replay, the link should be included as well so that you get to experience that community and join us if you'd like to, and just come along to learn. Last week I taught a webinar on essentially how to have a webinar where you get leads and essentially capture those leads, nurture them throughout time, and hopefully make them somebody that you can work with in your business. And so if those things sound of interest to you, please join us in the community, and I'd love to have you. So in this episode of the Life Science Success Podcast, I'd like to welcome my guest, Josh Yelen. He's a CPA, an MBA, and founder and CEO of Function. They're a strategic financial leadership and bookkeeping services company that supports businesses across various industries, including life sciences. So with that, welcome, Josh. It's great to have you.
Don, good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. And
Thank you.
Hey, why don't we just start the interview? Just tell us a little bit about your professional background and what is it that led you to focus on life sciences and technology-driven business growth?
My entire career has been in life sciences. I've been in healthcare delivery. I've been in diagnostics. I've worked in biopharma. And so when my partner and we actually started a company called Venture Forward Capital. It's an early stage VC fund. And then I subsequently started Function. It was just a natural evolution to invest in life science businesses at VFC, and then to support Function, to support businesses of the same nature at Function. And so we deliver financial services such as bookkeeping, CFO, tax strategy, all in one platform to companies in this particular vertical. By background, I'm a licensed CPA, but sort of had a weird path that I'll talk about throughout this interview to get to my current licensure status. I worked in accounting and finance for a very long time, but actually started my career in operations and actually worked in sales. I was a sales guy, not a good one, but I have held a bag and built pipeline and been on planes and try to get signatures on the line that is dotted. So I really understand that those perspectives and various facets throughout organizations have given me a good perspective on how companies work holistically. And this is the approach I use when we have CFO gigs, is that we don't just look at the numbers, but we look at the company and the market and the sales and the operations and really try to hone in and achieve growth objectives in that manner.
Yeah, it's important. I feel like as well, because I've met a lot of people that have done like they sort of track down that accounting and like bookkeeping route, and then they either become a CPA or maybe like a top leader CFO or something like that inside of an organization, but they don't have the operational background. I would imagine that in your journey you must have run around and had some really key pivotal moments between your past career, but also, right now with your, whether it's the founding Function or, your venture capital experience.
I was a W-2 worker for a long time and just never had the guts to go out on my own. There was always an excuse in my way, but I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I would say that I was like a wannabe entrepreneur for quite a long time, and I had dabbled in this project, but I never really had both feet inside of a project. But life takes you on twists and turns, and usually they're for the better, and it's the path that you're supposed to be on. And so I remember the day. I don't remember the exact date, but I remember the day I was working a W-2 job, corporate America, Monday morning, getting in the elevator, me, two other ladies, and everyone looked super depressed, myself included. And I just kept saying to myself, like, there's got to be a better way to do this. I had always wanted to go out on my own and never did it. And then I saw 3 signs. It was actually pretty cool. Like, literally and figuratively saw 3 signs. And one of the signs, I'd always worked in finance and accounting. One of the signs, I was driving on Calle Ocho in Miami, where I'm from, and saw a sign on a billboard and said, "Get your master's of accounting and subsequently get your CPA." And I'm like, that's really cool. And then a couple of days later, there was a bench, a bus stop bench, and it had another sign from another company that said, "Get your master's of accounting." And then 2 days later, I got an email, and I'd never received any communication about this, that said, "Get your master's of accounting, get your CPA." And I talked to my wife, who's been like super supportive in my journey, and she said, "Do it." So after my first MBA, I enrolled, got a master's of accounting, went on to get my CPA. We already had kids, had a wife, had a full-time job, but just decided that the grind was for me, and I wanted something bigger and better in life. And so this is how that sort of career defining moment happened for me. That after that, venture forward capital was just, the stars were aligning. My best friend for many, many years, and now business partner, we kept getting these deals that were sent to us through various friends and family that we started to invest in. And then jokingly, one day I said to him, "Hey, we should just start a venture capital fund." Totally jokingly. But if you knew my friend, he's one of these guys that's a 0 or 100 guy. There's nothing in between. So he calls me back a week later and he's like, "We're starting a fund and here's the name." And so that's how it happened. Venture forward capital was really a precursor to Function. And so based on my experience in corporate America, my frustrations for the way that accounting was being done, data was being pushed out, and then I saw similar frustrations also with some of our portfolio companies. Function was just a natural evolution to solve those pain points, from being a W-2 worker to being someone that could provide data and outputs that could solve some of the frustrations that I had.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it is an interesting thing, though. I mean, I feel like entrepreneurship leads you down this path of like, you see a lot of opportunities, and this is how digital marketing kind of happened for me as well. Is that, from the digital marketing side, I didn't naturally see this either. My focus was on like operations and scaling businesses. That's what I was, solely focused on, and I kept seeing the same problem over and over again. And I feel like entrepreneurship does that to you, where you're like, okay, so I see this issue. I feel like I can make a difference. Why don't I like lean into it a little bit more and go see if I can help some people?
That when I talk to a lot of my clients or prospective clients, they were working in corporate America. They were frustrated with something that was happening to them. They found a niche, and they had the courage and the chutzpah to just say, "I'm going to go fill it." And so that's how a lot of entrepreneurs start. Is they find a need and they fill it, and it's a beautiful thing. And there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah. So how do you see your role in terms of supporting businesses across industries like SaaS, healthcare, lab diagnostics, and biotech?
So we support our portfolio companies in venture forward, and my clients in Function in very similar manners. And so I could break down your question really into 2 buckets. As I told you before, Function was really inspired by seeing businesses struggle with, I would call it like fragmented financial management. Our tagline in Function is that it's finances that finally function as one. And so we went out and we tried to solve eliminating the friction by unifying services that traditionally operated in silos. So we realized that financial services, the market was very fragmented. Our clients or even SMBs would be getting bookkeeping from one place. They'd be maybe getting a fractional CFO from another entity, and then they would get taxes from their personal tax accountant or another corporate tax account that they used. And so we wanted to unify all of those services under one bucket. And then we also wanted to bring our real world experience in ops, sales, go-to-market strategy, auditing, all the things that my team and I have deep experiences. We wanted to bring that to our clients. My other frustration was, as I told you, it was I'm huge on like push versus pull mentality. And one of the biggest frustrations that I had working in corporate America was whenever you ask for data, someone says, oh, there's a report for that, go get it. Or there's a system, go log into it. And we've become so overwhelmed with systems and emails and reports and this and that. And it's wildly overwhelming. And you've got people pulling you from all different directions that I find what most of my entrepreneurs ask for, what I wanted in corporate America is just push me what I know, what I need to know. Push me the reports that are important to me, that give me insights into my business. Don't make me work harder. You're my service provider. Tell me what I need to know, and then allow me to go into a system to dig into details when I want to know more about the fine print. And so at Function, we've really tried to build a platform that connects all the financial tools. It's all off-the-shelf software because we don't want our clients reliant on something that we've built that they can never get out of if they're unhappy. So we use QuickBooks, we use Stripe, we use Gusto, we use Authorize.net, we use Rippling, we use just all off-the-shelf software, Bill.com, Dext, and any tool that the client has will incorporate. But we bring them all under one roof and one umbrella, and we try to push a consolidated data front to the client that tells them things that are relevant to their business that help drive growth, achieve objectives, meet key milestones, things that are important to the entrepreneur. So it's about being more than just a transactional partner. It's about being a thought leader for clients. And that seems to really resonate with the groups that we work with and the CEOs that we work with. So we aim to move from static reporting to real-time reporting. We want to provide strategic insights at a fraction of like a traditional cost. So fractional CFOs, some are good, some may not be as good as others. But I think as market shift and roles shift, and the question is, do you really need a full-time CFO, or can you get someone at a fraction of the price, but also the fraction of the time, who can deliver the same amount of value just in less time because you're hiring that gray hair, which I have plenty of here, and there's something to be said about having experience and doing more in less time. We really pride ourselves on helping clients with cash flow management. You're a small business owner, you know how important that is. No matter how much you have it down to a tune, you lose a client, it impacts your cash flow. You gain a client, you got more cash flow. What do you do with it? We work on scenario planning. A lot of our clients are in investor stages. And so we work on presenting investor-ready financials that are really bulletproof and can stand up to the really tough questions. We focus on making expert financial guidance accessible to SMBs. Like I like to say that we bring blue chip services to the small and medium business market segment. We work across, we're here today to talk about life science, but we work across highly regulated industries like life sciences, and we work across some not highly regulated industries. But they all need sophisticated modeling, insights, intelligence into their business. And recently we've added go-to-market strategy because, as you know, as an entrepreneur, like you can have the best product in the world. If you don't know how to go to market, you don't know how to sell it, it's never going to make it. So we've brought go-to-market because I feel there's such a synergy between finance and go-to-market and sales that it just feels like a natural, accretive offering that we could bring to our clients.
Makes sense. Tell me a little bit about what do you see in terms of applying your expertise in finance and accounting, more or less across these earlier stage companies to achieve growth and efficiency, especially in like these highly regulated industries like healthcare and life sciences.
So I don't know if you've heard the saying about F1. I've heard it about F1. I've also heard it about like young go-kart racers. The saying is you can only afford to go as fast as you can afford to go.
No,
You can
I
only
never
go as
heard
fast
that.
as
No.
okay. You can only go as fast as you can afford to go. So I think a lot of this statement applies to highly regulated or innovative sectors, and obviously, the more flush with cash you are, the more opportunity you have to move quicker. But in our industry, or the industry that you and I both support, life sciences and biotechnology, that applies to a point. So you can't speed up science, right? You got a plate where organisms are growing, and no matter how much money you throw at the science, the organisms are not going to grow faster than biology allows them to grow. So you can't change basic biology. Our clients, a lot of them have to go down regulatory pathways, which requires government intervention. And for anyone that's been to the DMV, you can't make the DMV work faster than they work, right? So you're working with a government entity, and they go at the speed that they go at, and there's just no way to expedite that process, no matter how much money you're spending on it. But being flush with cash certainly can help expedite the journey in different ways. And at my company, at Function, we have teams of highly skilled people that have some pretty different, awesome backgrounds that contribute to moving things along the journey faster. For example, my controller, Artemis Shaheen, works out of Philly. He spent 15 years at Deloitte, another major international audit firm, where he's audited multinational healthcare and medical device companies. He knows the industry really, really, really well. He knows the accounting, he knows the finance, he knows a lot of the operations. My partner, Julie, who's our go-to-market expert, she spent her whole career in like go-to-market on health sciences and on life sciences. So she knows that space related. So there are certain resources that you can bring to the table who can certainly make things go faster, and point out situations that they have learned from past experiences that our clients could avoid. But then there are always the regulatory pathways that you can't avoid. There's the science behind it, which you can't make go faster. But at Function, we take this accounting and we take our non-accounting knowledge, and we try to use as best possible to help our companies scale efficiently, meet their clinical, their operational milestones, and get to a commercial pathway as quickly as possible.
It's really important though, too, I would imagine, to have that experience and background at times, right? I mean, I could see, people clearly with an outside view, just why can't this go faster? I mean, we see it all the time in the news, and it's like, look, why I don't understand why medicines cost so much. Well, I mean, take away all the regulations, and you wouldn't have medicines that need to cost as much. But also, if it takes you 10 years worth of research to be able to bring a drug to market, plus you got to do all these clinical trials and everything else, I don't know how you avoid some of the cost. I mean, does all of it have to, hit American consumers? I don't know that part. It's not my part to solve. But I also sort of, I sympathize, I would say, with both sides, right? I don't like expensive medicine, but at the same time, I'm like, look, whenever I watch what people go through, where you got 90+% of the companies dying in that 10-year span, it's pretty easy to understand. This is a challenging market that people, to work in it, you got to understand a little bit of the context too.
Yeah, but biotech and pharma, and even to an extent life sciences, it's challenging because it works or it doesn't work in a lot of cases. And when you're an investor and you want to invest, it's high risk, high reward in these areas. When you've got a SaaS company and you're investing in software as a service, and you've got a founder and it sounds like a compelling use case, and they're building an MVP, and you put some money in, and they go to try to find that product market fit. If the product market fit isn't there, you pivot, and you can pivot pretty quickly. But when you're investing in a drug or a device to do this particular thing, and either the science doesn't get there, or they can't make it over the FDA hurdles, which there are many. You can even make it through phase 1 and it dies in phase 2. You make it through a phase 2 trial and it dies in phase 3. And you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that have been invested that all of a sudden count for nothing. So biotech's tricky. They face the valley of death. I don't know if you've heard the valley of death in biotech.
No, sure.
Oh yeah, they face young biotech companies and pharma companies. They face the valley of death many times. They can't get the funding that they need to take their idea to a point where it's either divestable to a larger organization who can take it across the finish line, or just even to get to the proof point that the science works. So I totally agree with everything that you said.
Yeah. So, given your focus on early stage investment in biotech and diagnostics, what sort of trends are you seeing shape the future in these industries? I'm thinking more around like digital transformation or artificial intelligence here.
So from the venture forward capital side, in fund one, we were agnostic. We were sector agnostic. So we invested in some healthcare companies, some life science companies. We invested in an ice cream company. It was all over the map, but really we invested in the entrepreneur. In fund two, which we're just rolling out now and going on a raise for, it's really focused on vertical AI. So the thesis of the of fund two is very focused. So I don't have my finger on the pulse as much as I'd love to, but what I am seeing from my startup companies that I work with and just continuing to stay abreast of what's in the industry, I think there's a ton of use cases for both AI and digital transformation. I think we're going to see a lot of quicker time to development. We're going to see new novel molecular designs. We're going to see a lot more in the personalized medicine space. We're going to see a lot in drug repurposing. We almost invested in a company. They couldn't end up raising a sufficient round for a seed round that was repurposing a drug that has been around and been used since 1975. And they were just repurposing the delivery pathway. And it was two founders, MIT and Harvard, a known drug, been around since FDA approved and used since 75 for this particular use case. They were repurposing how the drug was going to be delivered. They couldn't raise the money. So it's even, again, back with the best idea, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to fundraise and bring your idea to fruition. I think there's going to be a lot in optimized manufacturing processes with AI, drug targeted identification, advanced product design. There's so many use cases where AI and digital transformation are going to happen. And I really, really, really hope that we see exponential leaps in scientific advances from AI and digital transformation that are going to lead to eventually like healthier lifestyles, breakthrough advancements in new medicines and treatments and therapies, all to combat chronic illness and chronic disease.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing so many amazing things on the AI front as well. We were talking before the show kicked off. I mean, we use AI pretty extensively. We use it to, more or less construct like private AI for, for our clients so that they have a way of really understanding, kind of what's going on in the digital space for them in terms of marketing, but also, more broadly, how can I write and implement content that, targets some of the things that I can help with, and so, I know I've had clients just say that, they're amazed sometimes at the level of, content that can be created from them, from something that just understands the world. I could only imagine, I mean, and dream of some of the things that, we must be, utilizing on the drug development side, because it's not really where I spend, the greater majority of my time isn't spent in that world, but it is an amazing space. And I'm looking forward to seeing like the overall impact that all of us, I think, that are looking for.
Yeah. We have a friend and neighbor who works at Big Pharma. His company's investing $2 billion a year on AI for drug discovery. It's a huge R&D expense, but it can bring that much long-term benefit in expediting drug drug development, drug testing, taking it through FDA trials and bringing it to market. But we're seeing even on the non-life science side, we've invested in a couple of companies which are doing awesome stuff, like super simple, right? Super simple. We invested in a company called NDAOK. CEO James Weir, great guy, lawyer, got burned out, started being an operator in a SaaS company, which we love. And then he said, hey, I think that if I create a company that does AI reviews of NDAs, I could do this all day in and out. And he found a niche, and the company is growing like crazy right now. And he's found his niche. He's got different verticals that he goes after, and he takes in NDAs. He does a review, meets with the client, asks them, what are they looking for in their NDA, trains the AI model, and they're processing AIs for a fraction of what it would cost to send to these big $1,000 an hour firms, and it's pumping them out much quicker too. We invested in another company called Medita AI, super cool technology. The CEO brought in former Israeli defense IT guys to create the product, and they're doing something that's not really going to help people, but it just helps process. So they typically, when you want to get new windows or doors, and if you ever put new windows or doors in, we put a new door in. So you have to take 3 measurements. You have to measure from top to top across. You have to measure from the middle to the middle and the bottom to the bottom. And sometimes it's like a 1/2 inch or 1/4 of an inch off. And so when you do it yourself, you got to send the measurements in. They cut a door for you. They send you the door back. You hope it fits. When you have a salesman who comes to your house, the process for getting new doors or windows, salesman comes to the house. Okay, I see the house. I got 10 windows on the outside. I got 5 windows on the inside. I got 3 doors we're going to replace. I'll send a measure in the next week. They send a measure in the next week. Well, I don't know if you're a customer journey life cycle, but the more time that happens in the customer journey life cycle, the desire and the want wanes, and you have less of a chance of closing a deal. And so there's a 7 to 10 day lapse between the time the salesman gets there and the time the measurer gets there. Well, they created a company where they take a picture of your door or your window, and within millimeters that can be filled with caulk, they get the exact measurements of the door or window. So now the salesman comes to your house, he looks at all your doors or windows, he takes a snapshot of it, he gets the exact measurements right there, he quotes you out, and he pushes you to close the sale.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, it's really incredible how AI can change not only in our business, life science and biotech, but just in so many other businesses. We invest in another business. One of my favorite entrepreneurs we met with, and in fund 1, we really focused on betting on the entrepreneur. We'd all been entrepreneurs. We knew the DNA of a good entrepreneur. We met with this guy, and he's David Navama, building a company called Storyline. Super cool. And he's an amazing entrepreneur, already had an exit. And he told us a story that when he started his first company, it was a marketing company like yours. He had one of the largest, fastest growing first to market froyo chains. Okay. The first yogurt, you go pour your yogurt,
Sure.
top.
Yeah.
Right. So he had this froyo chain. And over the first year of the company doing business, the froyo chain, they grew from 1 store to 100 stores in the first year. I mean, exponential, massive growth. It was his biggest client. And over the course of the year, he and his business partner had formed this marketing playbook that they knew was valuable, but they had one client that was sucking up all their time. So he looks to this is right out of a textbook, entrepreneur's textbook. He says one day to his business partner, we need to fire this company. And the business partner said, what are you talking about? This is 85% of our revenue. He's like, yeah, but we have this playbook, and we could take this playbook and we could expand it to 100 other companies and quadruple the size of our business, but we're so focused on this one company. So he went out and did it. He fired his biggest client, and then he grew the company to a lot of money and had a very, very, very nice exit. But this is, you got these, and then he built a company on AI. He's now building a company, Storyline, where they're taking complex data sets for like insurance companies, or you ever received a brokerage statement, you're like, I have no idea what any of this means, where you get your homeowner's insurance policy and it's got 40 pages with caveats and outliers and outlining. This is too complicated for me. So he's able to ingest that structured data, and then he turns it into like a 3 to 4 minute YouTube video that State Farm or whoever your insurance company would send it back to you, explaining your full policy in 3 minutes.
Wow.
Super cool. Super cool. I mean, using AI to do the whole thing, and he's got tremendous traction with banks and investment companies and insurance companies. But like, these are the amazing people and entrepreneurs who are finding niches, using technologies and solving real world problems, in our space and in other spaces. And there's just so much cool innovation going on, so much cool stuff going on. It's amazing.
Very cool. So I would imagine, Josh, in your career, right, that you've probably had lots of different experiences with lots of different companies. And one of the curiosities that I have around like portfolio companies and things like that is that, I mean, if I were to look at like any successful private equity firm or any successful venture capital firm, you guys at some level have like figured out this recipe of like looking at a company, understanding like where it fits in your overall portfolio. How do you like then match like their measurements or their OKRs to try and get all this stuff to align? It's just one of those things that's been in my mind for an awfully long time. I'd love to hear, how you think about, aligning, those capabilities or aligning key metrics inside of a company.
Yeah. So I love OKRs. I had previously worked at a company where the company was on EOS. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah,
Sure.
Entrepreneurial
Operating system. Yeah.
Yep. And it's there. OKRs, EOS. I'm sure there's five. I had a former colleague who worked at GE, and EOS has rocks. GE had WIGs, which was wildly important goals. So, but they're all very similar in that it's a structure and a mindset of keeping discipline and rigor on short and long-term goals and milestones and objectives and achieving them. So even at my company, when I first started, obviously we were way too early for an EOS or OKR operating system, but eventually we put one in. We went with OKRs, but having a framework inside of any small business is wildly important to stay focused on the prize. And so I don't know about you, but I am very guilty of chasing the shining object. I love, so when I advise clients, I'm always like, nah, man, you're chasing the shiny object. Like, stay focused on the prize. But when you sit in the captain's seat and you're the one making the decision for your business, you're like, this is kind of cool. Like, I think we could dabble in this, but that's why it's really good to have somebody on your team. And this is one of the reasons I brought in an equity partner is balance. It's that balance. And so whether it's your CFO, your fractional CFO, an equity partner, someone to keep you focused and make sure that you have OKRs, you have an EOS operating system, you have some sort of thing that prevents you from continuously chasing the shiny gold object, because otherwise you're going to be way too unfocused and you're never going to be successful. When we're working with our clients, we love to understand, what system are you using? What are your rocks? What are your WIGs? What are your goals? What are your OKRs? And then how can we support you with your data, but how can we put it into management reports that help you stay focused and keep your eye on the prize and achieve those milestones or objectives? We're using integrating forecasting that pulls data directly from live data feeds and keeps projections current and accurate. We use rolling forecast that helps clients stay agile and adjust their strategies based on the real information versus performance. We're using integrated budgets versus actuals, where the client can actually see where they are ahead of plan or behind plan. We're doing 3+9 planning. We're doing collaborative planning, where it's not just us sending the client a budget, but it's us really working with the client on what are the goals and objectives. What have you promised your VCs? How are we going to get to those goals and objectives? And then how do your OKRs layer or stack up against what you've put in your business plan? What do we need to adjust? It's really a constant work in progress.
Yeah, so important. And I would imagine that, just from a perspective of being able to like know where businesses are, having those sort of, performance measures in place and really understanding like, what are the key things that they're trying to move from this point to the next point, and what are the things that honestly we should leave alone, like let just run because, maybe they're doing really well as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I've had clients that have come to me and it's hey, we put this model together and we're gonna go from million ARR this year, and in 3 years we're gonna be at 50 million ARR. I'm like, sure. That's just like it happens. God bless you, and I hope I get some equity in your company. But the chance of that happening is like the chance of me going to the NHL right now. It's so unlikely. And so let's put some reality into these metrics and see where can we dial back, what's real, what's not real. What do you think is driving this sort of true exponential rocket ship growth? And maybe that's what you told your VCs and maybe they bought into it, but we got to come up with some sort of plan where if you don't hit those metrics, you've got something that you can go back to them and say, we didn't hit, but here's where we are, here's what we're doing, and here's how we plan on still sticking to the plan, albeit a year or two delayed.
So critical. So Josh, what's the greatest leadership advice that you've ever received, and how have you put it into action?
The best leadership advice I've ever received is sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield. and it's really great. It's really great for life and for business. It reminds me that everything in entrepreneurship during all periods until you exit your company, hopefully, you're going to face periods where everything hits you at once. Feels like the world is falling. It feels like your clients are leaving, your clients are complaining, you're not providing the service. And at other times, you're riding high, you're signing deals, your clients are happy, you're getting great feedback, you're driving forward with clarity and momentum. Everything is just going in your direction. But most of the time, you're going to be the bug, and most of the time you're going to be the windshield. That just happens at different times throughout the entrepreneurial journey. Both parts of these, though, are normal parts of being in a business, and especially being an entrepreneur, where you're the one who's leading. And during the downtimes, you got to figure out how are you going to come up. And during the up times, you can't get too comfortable because everything is cyclical. And there's going to go periods where you're not going to sign deals. There's going to go through periods where you may need to dial back the number of people in the company. And so that's the greatest piece of advice. When things do go tough, Don, I say what works for us is dialing back, focusing on the fundamentals, figuring out what are we doing right, what are our clients telling us that we're not doing right, hearing the feedback that sometimes you don't want to hear, and then just making those adjustments internally inside the company to pivot and make your own internal processes and workflows better. But I would say that staying consistent, having some consistency, delivering value, and always pressing on why did you start this company? For me, it's the push versus pull mentality, and bringing these blue chip services to SMBs. And as long as we continue to do that and we do it well, I think we're going to be on the right path.
Yeah, so important. What inspires you?
I think like most entrepreneurs, I'm pretty competitive. I like winning. I like I like success. I like winning very, very much. I have a secret addiction that I'll tell you and all your viewers. I am addicted to motivational videos. So I love, there's a group called Motiversity. I love motivational videos. I love watching Jocko Willink. I love watching David Goggins. I love watching videos about Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant and all the hard work. They get to the court before everyone's there. They're the last one on the court who's practicing and shooting 1,000 free throws after the game's over. There was a CrossFitter, best CrossFitter ever, guy by the name of Matt Frazier, 7-time in a row world champion CrossFitter. And he was just a workhorse. He just worked harder. He needed to improve his time. He got on the track. He needed to improve his weight skills. He got in the weight room, and they all get in the weight room, but he got in more. He got in harder. I mean, and I love that stuff. And I try to make my kids watch it. It really gets me going. And so I love drive. I love success. I love, I love it all. I had a client tell me the other day a super funny saying. He said, Josh, I only work half time. I'm like, oh, you're the chairman of the company. That's pretty cool. He said, yeah, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day.
There you go.
So I love that. I love hard work. I work very hard. I'm up before everyone else, and I go to bed after everybody else, and I put in the time. One, I enjoy it. Two, I got little boys, and I hope that they see how hard I work and that nothing comes easy, because I'm certainly not the smartest guy out there, and certainly not the best trained guy out there. And I don't come from an audit background, and I don't do this, but I've got drive, and I've got motivation, and I've got hunger to be the best and grow my company. But at the same time, and I think you and I did talk about this before we got on the podcast, is I'm a family guy, and I love the flexibility of entrepreneurialism. Like I can wake up and work at 3 a.m, and then I can leave my desk at 5 o'clock, and I can go watch my kids play their sports, or I can help them with their homework, and I don't have to report in to anyone. And so I think that drives me too, is the ability to continue this lifestyle so that I can do what I want to do without having to answer to another person other than the clients that I represent.
Yeah, I was up at 2 a.m. troubleshooting something, and there was somebody outside of the US that I was messaging back and forth with at 2 a.m. our time, right? And that person later on had asked me, they're like, when do you sleep? And I'm like, well, look, I was awake in bed, and I'm going, I know that I should at least try this particular solution for this particular problem and see whether or not if this will solve this thing. And then, believe me, I went back and got some really nice sleep afterwards, because at least the thing that was bugging me was out of my brain. And so I completely understand that. The one thing I would ask you, though, Josh, whenever you find a really motivational, video, you and I have email addresses now, send it to me. My favorite David Goggins one that I saw just the other day was he was like walking back from the beach, and some of these guys must have asked him, like, what, like, give us a motivational moment, or like, and he's like, and I can't say it the way that he says it, but my motivational moment is that I got up and I went and just did what I did. I do it because this is who I am and this is what I do. It's not the fact that you see me on stage or see me give a speech or whatever. That's not the motivational moment. The motivational moment just happened back on the beach, and nobody was there, and I just did it because that's what I do. And it was one of those things where it's like the private things that all of us do to execute and to make things happen is the thing that makes it successful. It's not the thing that you see in front of everybody. This kind of stuff is the easy part. It's the hard part is the thing of pulling it all together and making it happen. So.
There's 2 videos I'm going to send you now. There's one of my favorite quotes is from Denzel Washington. And he's got an unbelievable motivational video that I have saved on my browser, and I watch it often. Probably represent a good number of the millions of views that it has seen. But he says, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're eventually going to get a haircut. I just love that statement because it's so true. You just got to keep digging and digging and grinding, and eventually it's going to work out. The other one I love by Jocko Willink is he's a former Navy SEAL commander
Yep.
and hardcore guy, amazing guy, great motivational speaker. And he says, uh, his squad members come to him and they said, boss, we got this. And he says, good.
Yeah.
Boss,
Oh, yeah.
The mission failed. Good.
Yeah.
Because for every failure you have, it gives you an opportunity to prepare more, to get better, to come back. And then he ends it with this really, really inspirational speech. He talks about, reload, replan, re-engage, something. And it's awesome. And it's just makes the hairs on my arm stand. It just really like gets me going during the day. So love that stuff.
Very good.
my secret addiction right there.
So what concerns you?
Man, same thing that concerns you, my friend. Like, what doesn't keep you up at night? You got a client who needs this, you haven't been able to solve it. I'm pretty much a warrior by nature. Worry about my clients leaving. I worry about, are they meeting their goals? I worry about how do I handle attrition? How do I handle growth? You got a lot of mouths that are feeding on you right now. So typical worries of an entrepreneurship. Externally, worry about what's AI going to do to my field. So during the pandemic in my field, we had about 300,000 CPAs retired from the industry. So there's a massive, massive shortage of CPAs. In fact, when I was doing my master's degree, the program director said, Josh, you know what CPA stands for? I was like, no. Irfan, what does it stand for? He said, license to work. He's like, there's always a job. You got a CPA. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. But AI, there's a lot of companies right now in various verticals, especially in accounting, that are coming up with AI tools to do basic accounting. And so what's that going to do to a lot of the basic accountants? PwC put out a piece the other week, an article saying they're training their junior accountants to do other things because AI is going to replace just junior rudimentary manual journal entries and simple transactions. So definitely going to be a massive shift in my industry. Salesforce, I don't know if you saw the news the past couple of weeks, Salesforce laid off 5,000 people and attributed it to AI, whether it's true or not, I don't know. Microsoft laid off about 9 or 10,000 people, also attributed to AI. So the world is just moving really, really, really fast. I don't know what it's going to mean for my industry or my kids as they grow up and decide what they're going to do when they enter the workforce. So that worries me a little, but.
I mean, the main thing for me with AI, especially with kids, and it's funny because I work with a couple of educational companies right now, and one of the main sort of things that I said to them as well is that I think kids are going to have a new level of discernment that is much greater than most of us grew up with, where they evaluate and provide some levels of critical thinking to the things that AI is telling you, that are well beyond what any of us grew up with. I mean, I heard an unfortunate story this morning about this deals with the recent congressional hearings on AI, where somebody actually committed suicide because he was chatting with AI, and essentially, at the end he said, well, I worry about what my parents would think if this is what I do, and the AI's response, and again, I'm paraphrasing based on what I heard in the news story, so take this for what it is, but essentially that the AI said something to the effect of, your parents at the end of the day and what they think versus what you're feeling is unimportant. And this person committed suicide. And so think about like the level of like criticality. And I've used the example before that I was given at Christmas last year, that there were Michelin star restaurants in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is untrue. There are no Michelin star restaurants in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so, without like that critical thinking and being able to say, hey, look, this isn't reality. It's taken my question along with the things that I'm asking and what I want, and trying to apply something that will get me to what I want, without thinking that I'm asking for a true answer.
We do math homework with the boys, and we're sitting there at night, we're doing the homework, and my kid's like, Alexa, what is Bob? And I go, I get so upset with them because no, it's like, we need to think this through, guys. Alexa can't answer your problems. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to learn how to critically think and go through word problems and understand and dissect them. It's just, it's a massive, massive problem for my kids' generation, and then even the generation coming after them. I mean, big problem. We need to preserve critical thinking in society. It's such an important skill, and asking a agent to answer your questions removes the ability and the necessity to critical think, and that is detrimental to the American society in whole, in being a continued leader in innovation and design and thought for future generations to come.
Yeah. Last question. What excites you?
Oh man, you can probably tell from talking to me. I get excited about a lot of stuff. I love what I do. Told my wife the other day, never been more intellectually stimulated. Get to work with so many cool clients, get to work with a lot of our portfolio companies, different industries, different personalities, different paths on their entrepreneurial journey. I'm learning so much every single day. So it's, for me, this is all wildly intellectually stimulating. That excites me a lot. We're playing with AI in my company, and so that's also really, really cool. We're trying to use AI to put out, not insights, because I've seen a lot of AI insights in accounting, and it's like, well, your top vendors for accounts payable are these 3 vendors. And I'm like, I could tell you that information. That's not really AI. That's not difficult. Tell me the meat and bones of where's the business headed? How have we done over the past 13 months? Where are the clients that we're succeeding? What industries are these clients in? How long was the sales cycle? What were key things that we were able to pull out of the sales cycle to say, hey, can we replicate these to move other deals faster because it worked here? I mean, this is where real AI can provide benefit. And I know we're still at the early stages of the AI revolution, and there's a lot more to come. But I think it is going to be very exciting to see how it evolves and how it can drive true value and true insights into corporate behavior, and allow for new businesses to grow bigger, faster, quicker, and provide a lot more meaningful impact. We're excited. We continue to be excited that we're bringing blue chip analytics and blue chip reporting to SMBs. The reports that we provide look like they come out of a Fortune 500 company. And so when a entrepreneur takes our reports and takes it to an investor, they look real, and they are real, and they're backed by GAAP financial standards, and that's exciting. It's exciting to be able to deliver these like high value services that are typically only afforded in big companies to small companies that can really help them drive their company forward. My caveat with every client I work with is I make them promise me, like, I will help you get to the promised land as best as I can. But when you do sell your company, just promise you'll take me on your jet or your yacht. Like, I want one ride on the jet or the yacht. That's my only stipulation. And so we can party together and celebrate your success.
Excellent. Well, Josh, thanks a lot for being on the Life Science Success Podcast. I really appreciated you being here. Hopefully people got lost in the conversation here and there and enjoyed it as well. And I wish you all the success. It was great to get to talk to you.
Yep. Same to you, Don. Thanks for everything. And I'm glad we connected. And it's actually funny how we met. I cold called you, and here we are having this great podcast. So it's been fun, and I'm glad we're now in each other's circle. So thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to Life Science Success. For complete details about this podcast, including show notes, how to get in touch with guests, and more episodes, please visit www.lifesciencesuccess.com. If there's someone you'd like for us to invite to the show as a guest, please let me know by sending me a message at the podcast website. Please click subscribe on your favorite podcast app, share the podcast, or tell a friend about it. And last but not least, rate the podcast. Thank you again.